So team, welcome back to the day 3 for our HP QTP UFT training. Let's continue from where we left in the previous session. What we're going to be doing is we will take all our learning that we have done in the first 2 sessions on the basics of automation testing and continue on the project to automate the interact test cases. All right, so now these are the 2 test cases that we wrote so far, team. If you notice, we just did it and said manually how do we understand these test cases, and once we do that, then we can go about doing the automation script for it. In the initial 1 second please. So in the first few sessions we saw how it has been a very simple test automation record, and how the QTP tool or UFT tool has recorded the script and also created the object repository for it. In the next one, we saw how we can go about modifying the script and making sure that this tool that we use gets more interactive for us, and we are able to start to put information into the script as and how we need it. So these things are very critical for us to really look into as to how the object repository is organized and how we go about doing the entire scripting to take it to a much more advanced level. So quick couple of things, team, before we continue. Today's session was supposed to be at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. However, we had to delay it by about 10-15 minutes because on the same link we had also the Selenium live project orientation session. So we started this right after that. Tomorrow onwards it will be at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, and we will have a 1 hour session to begin with. From next week onwards we will be having this for more like an hour and a half, maybe from 7 to 8:30 p.m. or 6:30 to 8 p.m. Pacific, and that communication you will get it over the email. The title of this session is still the free orientation and demo sessions, because we left the day 3 also as a free demo. The reason primarily being the fact that we have not made too much progress in the first 2 days as per what we wanted to achieve. So from tomorrow's session, it will be a different link only for the paid participants. It is going to be shared, that GoToWebinar link, and you can join on that one. All right. Great. So this specific script that we generated, we saved it as iaft or interact underscore tc001 underscore 2. Let's take a quick look, rundown of what the script looks like, what we've been working on, and how we went about executing this. So the first step, if you notice, team, we go and click on the login link on the home page. Then we go about entering the username, which is set to a specific value. Then we have a password that is encrypted using set secure method. Then once this method gets executed on the application, it gets decrypted and put it, so that way your password is not directly visible in the code as is. Next one, we click on the login button once the user enters the information, and finally you'll see that we are doing a simple if statement that says that the authentication, is it working or not. So in this case we gave information that is not correct. So when a user does not enter the right information, what message is supposed to come in the application? And that message in the application is basically being put into this if statement to measure as to what and how we try and see which one is, if that specific web element is present. If it is, then we give a message box saying pass, or else we give a message box saying fail. Now let's look at the program as it runs right now, and then we will take it into the next level. So I kept my browser open on one side. I hope the zoom level is correct on this because it looks extremely small right now. Zoom is set to 100%, but I don't know why is this showing so small out here, team. I think it's just the display settings. Give me 1 second, please. Let me change this. Where do I change this? Still not. Can you see it correctly? Because isn't it too small a font out here? It is, right? So that's what I'm trying to change that so that way we can do it. I won't see it in the settings here. This is a Surface Pro machine on Windows 10, so I don't know exactly. I had to switch from a Mac to the Windows platform so that I could install QTP. Display resolution. Let's try this. Huh. Let me go to the application and see once. .com/app. Even this is pretty small, team. Do you notice? We are okay for UFT and the script. Everything is okay here. But IE is the only thing which is causing this. Here, if I go in a Chrome browser and I check for the same, it is much more elegant. There's no issue here. I don't know why IE is doing this. The zoom level here is set to 100%. So I can always set it to 200% and all, but there'll be typical issues in automation. Let me keep it at 200% and then try team. Okay. So I kept the browser open, the IE browser on one side. I also have my script on the other side. Now we're going to run the script team. So whatever we did in the day 2, we're going to execute that and see how it's going to work. So the script will now start to work with the application on the right side. It has to click on the login link that we see. Did we face an issue towards the end of day 2 where it could not identify the button or so? Now it's going to take, if you remember, we did put a default timeout and that we changed in the test settings. Let's take a look at that too. So here you can see it cannot find the login objects parent IE class browser. While it is here, it is not able to find that. Verify that the parent's objects matches an object currently displayed in the application. So it is primarily saying that it cannot even find the browser which is already open out here. So there is no reason for it to have not been recognizing when IE is open. Is it something different I open as Internet Explorer? Let me check once again. Internet Explorer. This is the one. I'm going to stop this test run. Let's go to Couple of things out here, team, that we'll do. File, uh, for this specific test, right? I don't see the test explorer here, so I'll go to view and enable solution explorer. It's saying it is there. I don't know where it is. There you go. So here, the way we go to the properties team is we right click on the test to look at the test settings. So one or two things that we definitely did change last time was, so right click, go to settings, and under the run tab, we gave the object synchronization timeout to be 8 seconds. So we're only waiting for 8 seconds before it throws an error. So automatically it was supposed to have opened Internet Explorer. This did not work, and hence we used this to open the browser by ourselves. Let's try to open it with systemutil.run, which is the correct one. Okay, IE is opened. So this statement which did not work last time is now working fine. Cannot find the login object's parent IE class browser. Why? This is the one here. Why can't it find it? Retry. So these are the situations when we take our program run into a debug mode and try and analyze what is happening, team. So I'm retrying now. These error statements become very critical for us to analyze and understand what the issue is. A lot of times there are three areas where issues occur, team. The first one, I'll click debug for now and I'll show you how the debug will work. So the first one, team, is primarily that when an issue occurs, there is something wrong with the application that we are testing. So the application under test could have an error in it, and that is the reason it is not working. It could also be that the script that we wrote, whatever code we wrote, that could have an error as well. The other one is any information, the data that we provide or the environmental settings for the browser and so on. Even this could have an issue. So when you're trying to identify the culprit as to what is causing, you do not go to the application and test first. That will be your last option. First, you will try and suspect that all the information that we provided is correct or not, and if the environment is set up correctly for automation test runs. The second will be our code to make sure that whatever we have done as part of coding is correct and there's no issue there. If there's any issue, we get a chance to fix it. If these two seem to be okay, that is when we go into the third step and say application could have an issue. And then we go about saying that, okay, recreate that, reproduce that error and log a defect if needed. This is our approach in general. In this case right now, what we see is the issue is happening on the second step where it says that the browser, it is not able to recognize. It is not saying login. So here, let's go to resources and open object repository. Now we're trying to debug it. What is the concept of debugging? Debugging is primarily where we're trying to identify errors in the application or in our script. So when we talk about debug, we are trying to remove the bugs in our code. And to do this, any IDE, your development and environment, which is like the UFT that we're using right now, will have specific tools and techniques to help us achieve it. So we will focus a lot on the debugging of the code, because you will see as we go along and start using variables and so on, it becomes very critical. So at this moment, I have my application open and here is my object repository. If you notice that the test is currently paused, because when I got the error, I had the option to stop the test run to retry or debug, and I put it into debug mode. You will notice that all of them are grayed out, so you cannot really make a lot of changes here. But what we can do is we can try and see if these objects are getting recognized. So the first thing is IE. So I can try and find to see if this object is visible for UFT. And to do that, I will click on highlight in application. When I click on highlight in application, it should be able to show that. We are trying to identify the browser itself, it is not showing up. Now let's try and look at the page. If the browser is not shown, it will not typically show up anything else within it. So it has to start with the home, with the main parent object, and then it has to look for the child object within it. If it cannot find the parent object, there is no way the child object gets recognized. So in this case, both of them seem to be an issue. Now out here, while I trust everything should be okay with what I see, there is one specific thing that is getting my attention right now, and that is the creation time. Because I didn't have a creation time of 14 at that time. Creation time is an ordinal identifier that is used in descriptive programming. So when we come to descriptive programming, I will talk a lot about these. Okay, but for now it is just the fact that the creation time is used to identify a browser, and in simple definition as of now, for till we get into the actual usage of it, it is about when did the browser get opened. Let us say we work with multiple browsers. Let's say we work with a couple of browsers or 3 browsers. So the first browser will have a creation time value of 0. The second browser as 1, the third one as 2, and so on. This way it is able to identify which browser to be used when. Now I see that when we wrote the script or when we did a simple record and run, that the creation time is 14 out here, and that is not correct. We observe this team on the right side under the test object details. You will see that the creation time is 14, and that is not correct. I am suspecting that is the cause. So right now, whenever we have an issue, we have to go and take an approach team. The first one would be, where did it occur? The second one would be, what is the actual error? What is the issue? The third will be, do we have possible reasons for why it could have occurred? The fourth one will be, can we resolve it? Then we go about retesting. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, then we will have to find an alternate solution. This is the approach team. So where did the error occur? The error occurred on step number 5 when we're trying to click on the login link. And what is the error? The error says that the object, the browser itself, is not found. Then the third one is, do we know a possible reason? Not really, but when we investigated, now we recognize that maybe that creation time is a culprit. So now we will go and change it and see if it works okay. So to do that, what I will do is I'm going to stop this test run right now and open up the object repository for this test. Look at IE, and the creation time here is 14. So either I can delete this if it lets me, or I'll make this as 0. See, you can edit it. So I'm going to make this, instead of 14, I'll make it as 0. That will be the first one. And say OK and close this. But the next one, again, it has a creation time of 5. There could be an issue occurring here as well. It is in the same browser that we get, so I'll put it as 1. And I'll show you how we can also move the objects from one parent to the other very easily using drag and drop. So at this time, let me close the browser and try and rerun this test. Let us see what happens with this change that we did. So we are assuming that that could be a possible fix, but unless you execute it, you can never be confident of it. The minute it starts to take time, then we can be sure that there's some issue that could be happening. So now the error, is it the same error team that we got like last, or is it a different one? Is it the same error or is it a different error altogether? Everyone, is it the same error or is it a different error? It's a different error, and that is where we as test engineers, especially automation engineers, have to have a very strong eye for detail. It says it cannot identify the object login of class link. Now there's no issue of the browser. The browser is no longer a problem. It can identify that. But what it cannot identify is the login link inside it. So browser is fine. Let's again click on the debug now. So now we have a different issue. One issue is solved. There's a second issue. Go to resources, open object repository, and look at where is this. So the first thing I'll do, team, is I'm going to try and highlight the IE browser and see if it does recognize it. Do you see it blinking, everyone? Do you see the browser on the right side blinking? So when I click on highlight an application, it starts to blink. And when it blinks, we know that that is identified. Now we're looking at login, which is a link. And now let's hit the highlight an application. It is highlighting somewhere else. Do you see that, team? It is highlighting it, but it is showing somewhere else altogether, not where we wanted. Do you see that? The problem is also because the zoom is set to 200%. So this, team, sometimes all of these comes through your experience, not necessarily that all this is available right away for us. Now I put it to 100%. Now let's see if it identifies it correctly. Now it is exactly identifying it. So the details are correct. The test object details, the properties that are used to identify are correct. Have we gone through the discussion on properties already? No, we have not. We have not yet discussed on what are identification properties and how we work with it. Okay. So now we know that this is an issue, the zoom. Now again we have to do another run. There's no option for us except for us to do that. So each time there is an issue, we're trying to resolve it and go about making sure that the issue gets resolved. And what will happen, team, is at the end of the test run, we will get to know how good is our script overall. So now it's clicked on the login. Do you notice, everyone? It has clicked on the login. It has typed the username. It will also type the password. It will click on the login link, and this should fail. So I know, team, I apologize. The resolution is not that great at all for the browser. With the same resolution on a Chrome, there's no issue, but here there is an issue. So I got the login authentication failed as I expected, and hence the message box pops up saying it's a pass. Now let's talk a little bit of parameterization, team. For the same test case, I want to do something called as a parameterization. What is parameterization and why is it important? Now we tested this test case for one set of data to see if the username password of Karthik was ready and this set secure is working or not. Correct? We have not tested it for all, different types of data. So to do that, each time I have to come here and change the value here, change the value here. So there are some things in the script that are constant and there are other things which are variable. Things that are constant, what it primarily means is the fact that they do not change. So there are constants and there are variables. Every programming language gives you the ability to define them. Anything that we're putting within double quotes, if you notice, is currently a constant in the script. It is not bound to change. So team, just to reiterate, the issue that we had got resolved by going to the resources, to the object repository, checking to see when we did a record and run that the creation time was 14. I made it as 0, which basically says that the browser which is opened first is the one where we want to recognize, and that solved the issue. We then had another issue where the zoom setting was 200%, and that did not let the application to take correct instructions from the automation script, and we had to change it. So now that we fixed those, we are able to go back and change. So anything that we're giving in double quotes within the script team is constant. It will always remain the same. But a programming language, any programming language, gets its power and the real ability to be able to be flexible and give you all the features is because of variables. What are variables and how do we work with them? Variables are very simple, team. They are small memory locations within the program. There is a name to it and there is a value to it. So whenever I call the name, the value gets acquired and we can use it. So let's say I say x plus y equals what? Okay, so if x is the name of a variable and currently let's say x equals 5 and y equals 10, then x plus y becomes 15. Now if I change the same x to 15 and the same y to 100, then it becomes 115. So by changing the values of the variable, we're getting different results. And this concept, you will get it to be more and more clear as we go about the programming. Now, how do we define a simple variable in the program team? I'm going to save this test as version 3. That way we have different versions to work with. And do note team, the first 3-4 sessions will go very gradually because we are starting to understand the programming aspect of it. But once we get more into day 5 and so on, it will really start moving fast. So I have 3 variables here team, in fact, or even 4. I'm just looking at what is there in double quotes. The names of the objects I am not concerned because the names of the object are coming from the object repository. The values that we're putting is what is of essence for me. So here the way I create a variable is I give it a name. So I'll say v user name equals whatever I wanted. Karthik was ready, so I'll put that value. Now wherever I want to use this username, I will go there and substitute it with that name. So I just call the name. So whenever it says v username, it goes and gets that value to display onto a team. Similarly, for the password of this user, I'll say v password equals whatever is the value here. And I put that information here. So this whole large string is the password. Since we're using set secure, it is not an issue. Now I will use vPassword out here, and whatever comes from vPassword will go into the program. I also want to put a variable for URL, and you'll understand why as we go into the next one, because there is a dev version for this which is coming up. So Control C, Control V, this is the URL. So here I'll just say URL, vURL. Alright, now the same test we have used parameters to define them. I have not yet explained about how we go about using dim and option explicit yet. I will show it to you team in the next session. But right now we just have the script ready and I want to be able to execute it. Now at the end of the program you can always choose to close your browser. So if I say browser, automatically it will give me two options because these are the two browsers that are present in the object repository. And once I say dot, you can see all the activities that you can perform on it. As you keep practicing with the tool, you will have the ability to see which feature to use when. Now I want to close the browser as soon as it ends. So I click on close and you'll see that the closest browser window or tab that this test object represents. And hence you have the ability to close the browser at the end of the test. You don't want the browser to be open, for example. That is when we do this. So I save this now and let's rerun. Do you notice any issues in the script before we do it? Any issues that the script may have before we run this test? Let's see. Let's assume that everything is good. So we have defined three variables, and based on these three variables, we want to be able to call the steps and call the values. Use them. That is what we want to do. So what is the error right now, team? So can someone tell me what is the actual issue? The application is here. So does it say that the browser is not found? And your emphasis to these run errors is very, very important. Lot of times we assume that, oh, this is the error and go solving it without reading it. But you always have to go through that process. Where did that error occur? What is that error? What could have caused it? Do we have a solution that we can fix? Then fix it and retest it. Now it says cannot identify the object login. So that link it is not able to identify. But is it able to identify the browser then? Yes. Otherwise it would have said that cannot identify the browser object. Now when we want to do this, do you see as a user the application opened? You cannot see it, then the automation tool also cannot see the same. So what do you do then? You stop and you see the issue. The issue, if you notice here, team, is it went to a URL, VURL. Is that the URL that we're supposed to go? No. VURL is just the name which stores the URL itself. So this is the variable and here is the value. The right side is the value for the variable and towards the left side is the name of the variable. Then what is the issue? Where did it occur? It occurred because out here when I'm using the URLs variable name, I use double quotes. I'm not supposed to use the double quote. The double quote is basically saying take the value as is. It's a constant. If I don't use double quote, then it becomes a variable. And the same is also on line 15 with vPassword. So now I have these things set and we're ready to do another run. So you will notice as you go along practicing a lot of code change, rerun the test, code change, rerun the test will keep happening, team. And that is good because that will give you a lot of exposure to the coding, to the automation concept and so on. So that's a good thing. So now username, password. The reason it is slow because we implemented a wait 5 seconds on step 19. So that becomes a challenge too for us. Now it is checking for the message and it says it's a pass. So the same test case, we have promoted it to do a little bit more. And you notice the browser.close becomes important. At the end of every test run, if you notice, there is a new thing opening up, which is a report. A report which basically says how the test executed. Is it a pass or is it a fail and so on. You don't need this UFT report till you are actually testing it. So right now we are in the phase of automation. We are trying to do an automation test run. So let's say here. So we are talking about automation testing team. So our focus is on automation right now. When we get to testing it actually to start giving us errors and all that, then we can talk about the reports. I don't need the test reports right away. So we just want to run it, and each time it does a run, what happens is under the documents, where is this um, UFT code coming? Okay, here. So test case 003. So double click, you will see the results 1, results 2, new folders will keep getting generated, and it will make your program very heavy. And see here, many more, because we ran 11 times the test. Each time a result folder is getting generated. You don't need that right now. So you have the run results right here, but since we're still automating, you don't need the results right away. Here was the overall test that got executed that time. Okay, so now to make things easy till then is we will suspend the reports to get generated at the end of the test run. How? We're going to go to tools, options, and under run session, view results when run session ends. Do you see this, team? This is one. We will uncheck and say okay. Secondly, when I hit the run, it'll give me few options under the run itself. So new run results folder will get generated each time. We don't want them, so I'll just say temporary run results folder. Just put it into temp. I don't need them as of now. Once we're confident of automation, then we can talk about it. Okay. Now with this having been done, you can notice that you can use this skill to be able to develop a simple script for any application, anything that we want to do. Now, for the benefit of a practice, let us use an application that is more convenient for us with a little bit more of data into it to be able to learn some more about variables and the issues that come with it. Okay, so this is the overall test run. Browser is closed and the test will end. Now, with this amount of learning, can we create a new test altogether? And let's call this as, let's say, a mortgage calculator test, and I'll call it as MC1, and which does a very simple thing. I'm sure most of you who have seen my videos earlier, you would have seen such an this application being used significantly by me. The reason I use something like that is because of the fact that it gives us the ability to play around with variables, put some verifications and checkpoints in our code, and be able to analyze how we can go about generating some good understanding for it. I believe it is mortgagecalculator.org. It has a very simple mortgage calculator. Yes, there you go. So for the purpose of this exercise, first I'll just zoom it a little bit so we all can see what we want to do, and then I will show you the idea behind it. Let's zoom to, let's say, 300% for now. Okay, here is an application, team. This application is very simple. A user comes to this application, enters specific information, hits on calculate button, and gets a result based on it. So let us say user is trying to purchase a property in the US or anywhere. These are all in dollars. So, but the information you provided and just the currency could be different, and it will work for it. So let's say someone is trying to purchase a 500,000 property, and they're applying for a loan for 350,000. Interest rate is, let's say, 4.2%, and they're taking a 20 years loan. And let's say there's a property tax of 1.25. There's no mortgage insurance. I'll put as 0. Home insurance, monthly HOA is also 0. So they're able to enter inputs into this. And finally, when they click on calculate, you will notice that the results would have changed here. Where is it? So earlier it was 1600 something was the monthly payment. Now it's become 2000 odd. Now I want to write a test case or scenario to be able to do it. Since the lack of time, team, I will go about doing it straight away in the script for us and not do it in the Excel and then come here. But the steps are very simple for us. We can easily see. First is we have to visit go to the URL. That's the first step. Second step is, let's say, enter principal home value. 3 is enter loan amount. 4, enter uh, rate. What rate is it? Finance rate, right? So we'll enter the interest rate. Finally, we click on calculate, and then 6 we will get the result. These are the steps that we have to perform. Now I will comment each of these steps. To work with this, do we require variables? Yes or no? That will be the first approach that we have to take, team. Okay, do we require some variables to be able to work with it? Absolutely yes. The home value, loan amount, interest rate, and the URL could be the variables. So I'll put VURL equals whatever is the URL for the application. One second, team. Second is home value. So for the home value, I'll just call this as V home value. These are my variables that I'm trying to define in a very simple, neat code that will make all the sense. And let's say the value is 500,000. Okay. V loan amount equals, now I'll say 350,000. Okay. Then we have interest rate. So I'll just call this as V rate equals, let's say, 4.1%. And there is actual result. V actual result equals whatever we get from the application. So this we don't know yet. The we expected, what we expected result is, let us say, whatever is here, $2762.16. Okay. So copy this and put it. This is what we expect to get. This is the value that we expect. Now we have to go about doing the programming. So here are the variables. But just having the variables and what to do with it is not enough. We also have to identify where they are, correct? Now to identify where they are, we have to add these objects into our object repository. So I'm gonna unzoom it back to original 100% because otherwise it will not recognize it correctly. Move this window to one side, application to the other. Open up the object repository, shortcut is Ctrl R, and click on this plus sign here, team. Plus sign will help you to add objects. And let's start with home value. So as it adds the objects into the application, I'll go about changing the names. So the browser, I will call it as IE. Okay. The page name, that's fine. I'll just say mortgage calculator. It is easy to understand. The param name here is home value. Instead of home value, I will call it as param home value. I'll just call it as home value. It is much more easy for us to identify. These are the names that are used by the object repository and the script. It's got nothing to do with the application. It will look at some values in the properties and go and identify that. But we are using that more from the perspective of easy readability for the code. So then another one, it gets added under the same IE mortgage calculator because it's from the same thing. So we loan, what was the name we gave to this? Remember, we loan amount. So I'll call this as we loan amount. That way it will become easy. Then one more, V interest rate. So I'm not filling all the fields that are there, just a few of them. So this is V rate. Then plus, click on the calculate button. So this is calculate button. So that gets added automatically. And all of these are organized in an alphabetical way, team. Finally, the actual result that we want to capture. So web element says $2762.16. Now This is as is. This is the name. I'll just put this as monthly payment. Okay, and it puts that information there. Now, the reason I use this application team, you will see a lot of hurdles as we go along on this, and that will make us to learn more and more things. So another 2 minutes team, I'll be done writing this code, and then we can come back to take a few questions, or we can continue tomorrow with further more questions on it. All right. So the first one is go to URL. How do we do it? Now with our experience and our comfort with how we did the earlier one, we should be able to go about writing this code fairly quickly. iexplore.exe, comma, v URL, that is a URL name, right? Now enter home value. It is browser, i.e. only one browser, page, only one page. So till here, it is going to be common for all these steps, right? Control C, dot. The first one is the web element. I think it's web, not number. What was it? What was the type of the object that we have, team, for those web edit fields? Right, let's see. What gets calculated? Home value. It is web number. See, it's a new class. Earlier, it used to be a web edit field, but now it says web number. All right, so that's pretty interesting. So I call this as dot web number. Now it will give me three options because there are three fields with that. Home value dot set this to v home value. All right, so that is how we enter the home value. Now to enter the loan amount, the same web number, I say loan. It's not v loan amount. That's the wrong name. Dot set v loan amount. I should just call this as loan amount. We'll change it in the object repository later. Dot web number, the rate dot set v rate, and then click on calculate. The way we do it is very simple. We have the object dot web button, only one button, dot click. We're clicking on it. Finally, to get the result, we will be getting it. This step is pending, team. It will require me to use a specific method called getArrow property, but that has to wait till tomorrow's session because of lack of time for today. So we have almost everything ready. Now we can test our code. Make sure you close the IE browser before you do this, and then let's run this code now. So again, I'm using the temporary run results. That way I'm not interfering, not storing too many results till we actually get to testing. So it open mortgage calculator, great. Let's see if it enters home value. It entered home value, everything. It did it very quickly, and it clicked on calculate, and we expected 2762.16. What did we get here? Come on. What's wrong with IE? IE is frozen out here, team. So that's about it for today, team. But we've started this new one. This will help us to build also a simple data-driven framework, and I'll show you how it is easy to go about building the first data-driven framework. Now that we learned the simple basics about automation in the first 3 sessions, using this application, we'll be able to do a lot of data-driven testing, and that becomes very critical for your knowledge as automation test engineers. Any questions before we meet tomorrow? All the sessions that have been recorded are there in the website, so please go and refer there. Pooja, are you asking the IE version? Is it 12.53? I don't know the version. QTP, yeah, I think QTP is 12.51 or 52, I guess. But 12.5 series, yes. Where is it? It doesn't show me totally, fully out here. The latest one, I downloaded this about 2 weeks back. Yeah, so as long as it is HP UFT 12 version 12 and above, it should be good. Even if you have an older version, it should not be an issue. All right, team, great. We'll see you back tomorrow. And any kind of a communication, please keep your emails, add us to your add learn@iteLearn.com to your contact list. That way you should be able to do it. Just continue to use the version that you've downloaded and use team. All right. So Deepali, for any specific question that we have not yet come to in this training, please use the forum. You can start putting the questions there. You will get a lot of help on that. We have all the team members who can guide you on that. All right. What was the first question, Satish? Now I have to scroll up. You should have typed the question itself rather than saying that. Um, just waiting for a couple more questions, team, and then we'll end the session. Course schedule, I told you, right? The course schedule is being emailed to you, team, and I very clearly mentioned, I think you missed it out. It is from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. every day, Monday to Friday this week. From next week, depending on the course completion for the Selenium live training that I'm doing, it can get preponed and we may do 1.5 hour session instead of the 1 hour typical session to try and catch up to be able to complete this training sooner. All right. Your earlier question I did already answer. I don't think you were attentive at that time. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for now. We'll see you back in day 4. Thank you all. Bye then.